and keep the charge of the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes, and his commandments, and his judgments, and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that thou may prosper in all that thou doest, and whithersoever thou turnest thyself. Shalom, Alakim. Peace be upon you, and welcome back to the broadcast. This morning we are looking at our prophet's portion for this week, which happens to be 12 verses, so not very long today, but we're going to look at some companion verses to go along with today's study. The portion is 1 Kings, it's chapter 2, and it's verses 1 through 12. It's dealing with David's instructions to Solomon right before he dies. And then, of course, the death of David. That's what we're looking at today. You know, 1 Kings and 2 Kings and 1 Samuel and 2 Samuel, those are two books that I've been wanting to study sometime in the future. So it's very possible that maybe sometime this coming year, Lord willing, that I would like to start diving into either one of those series, Samuel or Kings. But it's definitely on my radar as books to study for sure. Hey, real quick before we dig into today's study, it is January 30th or December 30th. We are approaching end of year. We have lost a few Patreon subscribers, so if you've been thinking about becoming a Patreon subscriber and supporting this work, you can do that by going to scriptureandprophecy.com and then clicking on the support and donate tab. Also, if you were thinking about donating and supporting the work through PayPal or something like that before the year's up, that's where you go to do that. If you're a YouTube watcher or BitChute or one of the video services, the links will be in the description. If you listen to it via audio podcast, just go to scriptureandprophecy.com. The support and donate tab is there at the top, and your support is much appreciated. It's far more than I deserve. And I'm very, very grateful for that. Let's dig in. I'm going to go ahead and read 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 1 through 12, and then we'll focus in on our part that I really wanted to focus in on and look at some of our companion verses. So we're going to be reading from the King James Bible, 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 1. Let's begin. Now the days of David drew nigh, that he should die. And he charged Solomon his son, saying, I go the way of all the earth. Be thou strong therefore, and show thyself a man. And keep the charge of the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes, and his commandments, and his judgments, and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest, and whithersoever thou turnest thyself. That the Lord may continue his word which he spake concerning me, saying, If thy children take heed to their way, to walk before me in truth, with all their heart, and with all their soul, there shall not fail thee, said he, a man on a throne of Israel. Moreover, thou knowest also what Joab the son of Zeruiah did to me, and what he did to the two captains of the host of Israel, unto Abner the son of Ner, and Amasa the son of Jether, whom he slew, and shed the blood of war and peace, and put the blood of war upon his girdle that was about his loins, and his shoes that were on his feet. Do therefore according to thy wisdom, and let not our head go down to the grave in peace. But show kindness unto the sons of Barzillai and Gileadite, and let them be of those that eat at thy table. For so they came to me when I fled because of Absalom thy brother. And behold, thou hast with thee Shemiah the son of Gera, and Benjamite of Barium, which cursed me with a grievous curse in the day when I went to Mahanaim. But he came down to meet me at Jordan, and I swear to him by the Lord, saying, I will not put thee to death with the sword. Now, therefore, hold him not guiltless, for thou art a wise man, and knowest that thou oughtest to do unto him. But as our head, bring thou down to the grave with blood. So David slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David. In the days of David, the days that David reigned over Israel were 40 years. 7 years reigned in Hebron, and 33 years reigned in Jerusalem. Then sat Solomon upon the throne of David his father, and his kingdom was established greatly. So there is the 12 verses that's scheduled for today's Torah portion, the Haftarah. And what we have here is, first and foremost, and this is what we're going to focus on, David telling Solomon to stay in the way, right? To continue to walk in the proper way. And if he does, there'll be nothing but blessings and that's going to follow him. Then he follows it up with, here's some people who are, that are deserving of death. Make sure you take care of those issues. But what I want to focus on is the walk. And so let me read verses 3 and 4 again, because it's so important. I talk about this so much that I feel like I'm just always talking about it, but actions matter, right? Actions demonstrate what you truly believe. And God believes that actions matter because throughout all the scriptures there is the word if. If you do this, then this. If you do this, then this. And in this particular, David here is quoting, first of all, he's quoting Deuteronomy. And then we see this theme all throughout the Bible. Let me read verse 3 and 4 again. He says, "And keep the charge of the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes, and his commandments, and his judgments, and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses." That, what happens if you do that? "That thou may prosper in all that thou doest, and whithersoever thou turnest thyself." Okay? Do what God says, walk in his ways, and you'll be prospered. That's what the scriptures teach. Check this out. He's quoting Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 9, which says, "Keep therefore the words of this covenant, and do them, that you may prosper in all that ye do." The book of Joseph. Let's take a look at not Joseph. Man, I'm struggling this morning. Joshua, rather. If we go to the book of Joshua and we look at the very first chapter, here's what verse 6 through 9 says. "Be strong and of good courage, for unto this people shalt thou divide for an inheritance the land which I swear unto their fathers to give them. Only be thou strong and very courageous, that thou may observe and do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded thee. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that thou may prosper wheresoever thou goest. This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou may observe and do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. Have I not commanded thee? Be strong and be of good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed, for the Lord thy God is with thee wheresoever thou goest." That theme is very, very clear, isn't it? Like, walk with God. Trust in God. Actions matter. Joshua 22, verse 5 says, "But take diligent heed to the commandment of the law, which Moses the servant of the Lord charged you, to love the Lord your God, and to walk in his ways, and to keep his commandments, and to cleave unto him, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul." 1 Chronicles chapter 22, verses 12 and 13. "Only the Lord give thee wisdom and understanding, and give thee charge concerning Israel, that thou mayest keep the law of the Lord thy God. Then shalt thou prosper, if," there's the word if, "then shalt thou prosper, if thou take heed to fulfill the statutes and judgments which the Lord charged Moses concerning Israel. Be strong and be of good courage. Dread not, nor be dismayed." 1 Chronicles chapter 28. Now therefore, in the sight of all Israel, the congregation of the Lord, and in the audience of our God, keep and seek for all the commandments of the Lord your God, that ye may possess this good land, and leave it for an inheritance for your children after you forever. And thou, Solomon my son, know thou the God of thy father, and serve him with a perfect heart and with a willing mind. For the Lord searcheth all hearts, and understandeth all the imaginations of the thoughts. If thou seek him, he will be found of thee, but if thou forsake him, he will cast thee off forever. Very, very clear, huh? Very, very clear. Psalm, very, very first Psalm, Psalm 1, verses 2 and 3 says, But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of the water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. It's about being focused on God, God's ways, meditating on it day and night, walking in it, prioritizing it. You'll be blessed. It's not to say there won't be trouble. This life is filled with nothing but labor and sorrow, right? That's what we just read out of the Psalms on Monday. This life is filled with labor and sorrow. Jesus says today's got enough trouble of its own. Don't even bother worrying about tomorrow. We're not saying you're going to have just a peachy life, but there's also the promise of prosperity in all your ways, that God will be there with you wherever you goest, wherever you turnest thyself. If you keep his statutes, if you obey his commandments and his judgments and his testimonies, if you walk in his ways, there's promises with that. Psalm 119, three verses here. Thou through thy commandments hast made me wiser than my enemies, for they are ever with me. I have more understanding than all my teachers, for thy testimonies are my meditation. I understand more than the ancients, because I keep thy precepts. Proverbs chapter 3. My son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee. Did you catch that? This is wisdom for us to consume out of the Proverbs. Forget not my law, but let thy heart keep my commandments. Why? For length of days and a long life and peace shall they add to thee. And then it goes on to say, let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them about thy neck. Write them upon the table of thine heart. So shalt thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. Actions matter, right? Actions matter. I feel like I've driven this point home. This is not to say, again, that you're going to have a perfect and wonderful life. But there is promises that come with walking in God's ways, keeping his statutes, keeping his commandments, and his judgments, and his testimonies. Can I read it one more time? Can I just drive it home one more time? I know it's a short podcast this morning, but I want you to walk away with this. Let's read verse 3 one more time. And keep the charge of the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes, and his commandments, and his judgments, and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that thou may prosper in all that thou doest, and whithersoever thou turnest thyself. That's all I have for you this morning, friends. There's no reason to continue to ramble just to fill space, just to fill time. I pray you've been blessed. Lord willing, I'll be back with you this weekend with our study in the Gospel of Luke. Peace and grace be with you all, and until next time, God bless.